siapa pun ganggu gugat. Ia mesti lalui proses yang lebih telus dan dipertanggungjawab kepada Menteri bersama KSU-nya. Barulah diangkat. Kita ada dasar industri pertahanan, tapi saya rasa terangkum di situ satu agensi atau pusat. Saudara Premier, Abang Jo, Menteri-Menteri, khususnya Menteri Ekonomi dan pasukan Kementerian Ekonomi, rakan-rakan yang saya muliakan. Tentunya hari ini kita mendengar tadi Tom Gruger satu penekanan yang menuntut kita melakukan sesuatu lonjakan, dan saya tentunya bersama rakan-rakan rasa lega kerana kita di tapak yang sesuai dan wajar, mengerahkan seluruh kekuatan dalam negara kita untuk memusatkan perhatian ke arah pertumbuhan ekonomi dengan yang lebih rancak, tahap kepesatan dan kelajuan yang lebih meyakinkan. Dan sebab itu Forum Ekonomi Malaysia ini bagi saya satu juga ruang untuk kita bahas secara terbuka, kerana isu-isu ini bukan isu yang sudah ditanggapi sebelumnya. Ini isu-isu yang berubah dengan pesat, dan saya lebih tertarik kerana kehadiran bukan sahaja rakan-rakan menteri, tapi juga dengan dukungan tokoh-tokoh seperti Premier Mengjuari yang merupakan suatu lagi sosok yang agak ke depan dalam memaksa perubahan dan peningkatan dalam bidang teknologi baru ini. Terima kasih. Now, we have launched the second Malaysia, the second Malaysia Economic Forum. I'm talking about the plan now. Now, this is not confined to merely an attempt to forecast or policy instruments, but I need to also emphasize the importance of, other than policy instruments, to remind ourselves about responsibility to govern with integrity, to ensure that economic progress carries true and tangible meaning for the rakyat. Malaysia today stands on firmer ground. Our GDP is on track to grow by around 4.9% in 2025, while inflation has been contained at 1.6%. Investment confidence is returning. These are encouraging signs reflecting disciplined fiscal management and a renewed sense of seriousness in governance. This progress did not come about by chance. It reflects a deliberate effort to restore trust in public finances, credibility in institutions, and integrity in the exercise of power. Confidence does not respond to slogans or short-term measures. It responds to consistency, to clarity of intent, and to the assurance that reform is sustained rather than episodic. So let us be clear. Numbers alone do not define success. Markets may respond to data, but the rakyat judge by experience. Growth must be felt in homes, in workplaces, and in the cost of living faced by ordinary families. Otherwise, it remains hollow. One visible signal of renewed confidence is the strengthening of the ringgit. External factors do play a role, but currencies ultimately reflect the trust in institutions, in policy directions, and trust that the country is governed by discipline and purpose. That trust is being rebuilt because of this Madadi government has taken a clear, principled, and uncompromising stand on governance. There will be no tolerance for corruption and no exceptions for the well-connected. Without accountability, there can be no credibility. Without credibility, there can be no sustainable growth. This is not a campaign for headlines, nor a passing phase. It is a recognition that lasting confidence depends on the certainty that the law applies equally to all. When enforcement is consistent, trust can be restored and institutions regain their authority. And yet, enforcement alone is not enough. That is precisely why institutional reform continues without pause and without apology. We are strengthening institutions so that integrity does not depend on personalities, but on systems. Rules must outlast individuals. Reform must endure beyond political cycles. These efforts are already bearing fruit, and thank you to the team. Investors are responding to consistency and predictability. They see firmer governance, clearer direction, and a country serious about long-term stability. This is reflected in their investment decisions and in a reassessment of Malaysia's economic risk. With this foundation in place, confidence must translate into better lives. Cost of living pressures are real and felt daily by the rakyat. This is why our economic strategy combines macroeconomic discipline with targeted support to protect purchasing power and ensure that growth improves real living standards. At its core, development is about expanding opportunity. It is not merely about raising output or improving statistics, but about enlarging what people can realistically aspire to live and achieve in their own lives. Growth becomes meaningful only when it opens doors to education, to decent work, to upward mobility, and to the ability to plan one's future with confidence. Economic reforms earns legitimacy not when it looks impressive on paper, but when it widens opportunity, reduces exclusion, and strengthens the dignity of every citizen. Put a reminder for Akmal and the team here. Education remains central to this mission. It is the most powerful equalizer. With an allocation of exceeding 84 billion ringgit in budget 2026, we are committing not just resources, but resolve to reforms in education and training and promote flexibility, mobility, and lifelong learning, recognizing that talent develops at different stages of life. These reforms respond to a labor market already in transition, where skills must be renewed, careers evolve, and workers require support across different stages of life. Education today must equip Malaysians not only with knowledge, but with adaptability, resilience, and the confidence to navigate change. Technology makes this urgency unmistakable. Artificial intelligence is reshaping work and industry. The question is not whether change will come, but whether we are prepared. Whether technology widens opportunity or deepens inequality depends on how choices we make now. Ladies and gentlemen, growth must also be broad-based. Concentration benefits no one in the long run. Regional development, support for small and medium enterprises, and higher value tourism services are essential to building a resilient economy where progress is shared more widely. At the same time, prosperity requires security and life's essentials, healthcare, housing, and preparation for an aging society are not peripheral concerns. They go to the heart of dignity and social stability. A nation cannot strive if its people live in fear of illness, insecurity, or neglect. The same discipline and long-term thinking guide our approach to climate and industrial policy. Energy transition is no longer optional. It is a practical response to changing global markets and rising expectations. To succeed, investors require clear rules. Exporters must adjust, and institutions must provide stability. As Parliament prepares to consider the climate change bill, we will pursue this transition in a manner that is orderly, evidence-based, and firmly anchored in national interest. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sounding a bit too serious. Let me conclude. Over 1,000 years ago, Al-Farabi reminded us that leadership is a moral obligation to create the conditions for human flourishing and to restore balance when it is lost. This Madani government takes that obligation seriously. We will not retreat from reform, and we will not compromise on integrity. If we stay the course, inshallah, I'm confident that Malaysia will continue on a positive growth trajectory, one that is resilient, inclusive, and governed with honor. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri. We'd like to invite you, sir, to kindly remain on stage as I invite all our distinguished guests in the front row to join the Honourable Prime Minister for the official launch of the Forum Ekonomi Malaysia 2026. To officiate the launch this afternoon, we'd like to invite Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim to kindly insert the acrylic key in place to initiate the launch sequence. As we count down from